the idea of Canada joining the U.S. surfaces periodically. It is a fascinating hypothetical scenario. Recent remarks by figures like President Trump concerning missile defense systems such as the Golden Dome have brought this topic back into public discussion. However, this notion is generally considered highly improbable by most observers. The historical and political realities make it a distant thought. Canada and the U.S. share the world's longest undefended border, yet they remain distinctly separate nations with their own paths. This enduring question invites us to examine the complex relationship between these two neighbors, a relationship often characterized by both similarity and striking difference. Deep-seated historical and cultural differences form a significant barrier to any such union. Canada's development was not rooted in revolution against a crown, unlike its southern neighbor. Instead, it evolved more gradually, maintaining ties to British parliamentary traditions and the monarchy. This distinct path created a different societal trajectory and national psyche. Its identity is often subtly and sometimes overtly defined by what it is not, specifically, not American. This distinction is a cornerstone of Canadian self-perception and national pride. Values such as robust multiculturalism, official bilingualism, and a strong social safety net are deeply ingrained in the Canadian fabric. These often contrast with American ideals of pronounced individualism and more market-driven solutions to social issues. The current political atmosphere further underscores Canada's commitment to its sovereignty and independent path. King Charles III recently addressed the Canadian Parliament, a symbolic gesture emphasizing Canada's long-standing independence and unique constitutional framework. This visit occurred amidst renewed, albeit largely speculative, international talk of annexation or closer integration. Prime Minister Mark Carney has also firmly stated Canada's resolve to remain a separate nation. He emphasized clearly that Canada is not for sale and will not entertain such notions. These statements reflect a strong and widespread national sentiment. They highlight the deep value Canadians place on their autonomy, their distinct political system, and their particular approach to governance. This essay will explore the multifaceted implications of such a hypothetical union between Canada and the United States. We will consider the potential economic benefits that proponents, however few, sometimes suggest might arise from complete integration. We will also examine the geopolitical shifts that might occur if North America were to become a single political entity. However, it is crucial that we also delve deeply into the significant and numerous drawbacks. These include the almost certain loss of a cherished national identity and the dismantling of social programs that define Canadian society. Ultimately, the question is whether any perceived advantages could ever outweigh the profound desire of Canadians to preserve their unique way of life and their independent voice in the world. One of the most frequently cited theoretical advantages of Canada becoming part of the U.S. is enhanced economic integration. Imagine the complete removal of the existing border for all trade and economic purposes. This could theoretically create the largest and most dynamic single market in the world. All tariffs, complex customs procedures, and unpredictable currency exchange fluctuations would vanish between the two current nations. This frictionless trade environment could significantly boost commerce and investment flows across the entire North American continent. Businesses, both large and small, might find it easier and less costly to operate continent-wide. Consumers could potentially benefit from lower prices and a wider array of choices due to increased competition and enhanced supply chain efficiencies. A unified North American entity would undoubtedly possess unparalleled geopolitical influence on the world stage. Its collective voice in international forums and negotiations would be amplified considerably, creating a formidable global power. Defense strategies could be fully integrated, potentially leading to greater military efficiency and a more robust security posture. This consolidation could also result in significant cost savings in defense spending for the combined entity. The vast Canada-US border, currently recognized as the longest undefended border globally, would effectively become an internal one. This transformation would dramatically simplify border management. It would also reduce the substantial costs associated with security protocols and customs enforcement along this extensive stretch of land and water. Shared innovation and a combined talent pool could be another positive outcome, at least in theory. Increased American investment might flow more readily into Canadian research institutions and burgeoning technology hubs. This could foster greater collaboration between scientists and innovators, potentially accelerating scientific breakthroughs and technological advancements. Companies across the newly formed and enlarged entity would gain access to a larger, more diverse and highly skilled talent pool. This increased competition for talent and the sharing of expertise could drive innovation and productivity upwards. For Canada, this might even help to mitigate the long-standing concern of brain drain, as skilled workers might find more compelling and varied opportunities within a larger integrated economic sphere, possibly choosing to remain within Canadian regions. Some proponents argue that specific Canadian provinces might see particular benefits from such a union. Provinces that are rich in natural resources such as oil, natural gas, minerals, or timber could find more streamlined and direct access to the vast American markets. This could potentially increase production levels and contribute to lower continental energy costs, if managed with foresight and environmental responsibility. A unified regulatory environment, although complex to achieve, might facilitate the development and transportation of these resources more efficiently. Furthermore, geographically isolated Canadian regions or those heavily reliant on specific industries could benefit from more direct integration with U.S. supply chains and its massive consumer bases, fostering local economic growth and stability. The most profound drawback, and often the immediate deal-breaker for the vast majority of Canadians, is the inevitable loss of sovereignty and national identity. Canada's distinct national identity, carefully nurtured over more than a century and a half, would face immense pressure from the larger, more dominant American culture. Its unique cultural tapestry, woven from threads of Indigenous heritage, French and British traditions, and generations of immigrants, would risk being assimilated or significantly diluted. The strong societal emphasis on multiculturalism, a defining feature of Canadian society and official government policy, might erode under a different constitutional framework. Official bilingualism, another cornerstone of Canadian identity recognizing both English and French, would face an uncertain future within a predominantly English-speaking union. Deep socio-political discrepancies between the two nations would create enormous challenges and likely result in widespread social discontent. Canada's universal, publicly funded single-payer healthcare system is a source of intense national pride and a key marker of Canadian identity. It stands in stark contrast to the U.S. market-based, multi-payer healthcare approach. The dismantling or significant alteration of this cherished system to align with American models would be met with fierce and widespread resistance from Canadians across the political spectrum. Similarly, Canada's stricter gun control laws reflect fundamentally different societal values regarding public safety and the role of firearms. Adopting U.S. gun laws would be deeply unpopular and could lead to increased social anxieties and community safety concerns. Certain Canadian economic sectors could face significant disadvantages and disruptions in a unified market. While some industries might indeed thrive with unfettered access to U.S. consumers, others that currently benefit from specific Canadian regulations, carefully targeted subsidies, or protectionist measures might struggle considerably. These sectors could find it exceedingly difficult to compete directly with larger, more established, and often more heavily capitalized U.S. counterparts in an entirely open field. There would also be legitimate and widespread concerns about unchecked American corporate interests. These powerful interests might seek to exploit Canadian natural resources, water, timber, minerals, without adequate local control, or ensuring that sufficient benefits flow back to Canadian communities and provinces, raising fears of resource depletion and environmental degradation. The political and administrative hurdles of attempting such a union are almost insurmountable, presenting a labyrinth of complexity. Merging Canada's parliamentary democracy with its constitutional monarchy and responsible government with the U.S. presidential system, characterized by a separation of powers, would be incredibly complex. Canada's common law tradition, which evolved from British law, and particularly Quebec's distinct civil law system, rooted in French legal traditions, would need to be painstakingly integrated into the U.S. legal framework. This would be an unprecedented legal and administrative undertaking, fraught with potential conflicts and requiring immense resources. Determining the number of senators and representatives for new Canadian states within the U.S. Congress would undoubtedly spark intense and divisive political battles, further complicating an already challenging process. When all factors are carefully considered, the idea of Canada becoming the 51st state of the United States remains deeply improbable and largely confined to the realm of speculation. While certain theoretical economic efficiencies or an enhanced geopolitical standing on the world stage might be presented as arguments in favor of such a monumental change, these are often abstract and difficult to quantify. They tend to be significantly overshadowed by the very real and tangible concerns about fundamental and irreversible changes to Canadian society and its core values. The practical difficulties of merging two distinct sovereign nations, each with its own complex history and institutions, are immense. More importantly, the collective will of the Canadian people to maintain their hard-won independence is a powerful and enduring counterforce to any such proposal. Canadian national identity is strong, distinct, and cherished by its people. It is built upon a unique historical narrative, a commitment to specific social values, and a particular approach to governance. Canadians, by and large, value their comprehensive social programs, such as universal health care, and a more robust system of unemployment benefits compared to the U.S. They appreciate their country's official commitment to multiculturalism and bilingualism, seeing these as strengths that enrich the nation. There is generally a preference for a more ordered and collectivist society, where community well-being is highly prized, which can contrast with the more pronounced individualistic ethos prevalent in much of the United States. These are not superficial differences, they represent core aspects of how Canadians see themselves. The fire and ice metaphor, often used by commentators and analysts like myself to describe Canada-US relations, effectively highlights these enduring differences in national character and societal priorities. While undoubtedly close neighbors, steadfast allies, and major trading partners, the two countries have forged distinct societal paths. Canadian values often emphasize concepts such as peace, order, and good government, forming the bedrock of their constitutional framework. American foundational values tend to prioritize life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, often with a greater societal emphasis on individual freedoms and entrepreneurial spirit. Canada's independent foreign policy, its active role in international institutions like the United Nations and the Commonwealth are also important components of its national identity. In conclusion, the overwhelming negatives associated with Canada becoming a U.S. state, particularly the profound loss of sovereignty, distinct national identity, and cherished social systems like universal healthcare, far outweigh any speculative potential benefits for the vast majority of Canadians. The current relationship, often described as one of friendly independence, allows for incredibly close economic ties, integrated security cooperation, and strong alliances on the world stage. Yet, it also crucially preserves the distinct political systems, unique cultures, and divergent societal values that define Canada as a separate and successful nation. This intricate balance, while sometimes complex and requiring ongoing dialogue, is far more reflective of the desires of both populations and offers a more sustainable path forward for both countries.